So today we are going to be talking about Suicide Prevention Month and the signs to look for and the variations in experience. And this is lovely Erica Elita. She lets me come on her show. Can you believe that? That's what we're going to be talking about today.
He makes my show. He is the cherry on top every month.
She knows just what to say all the time.
That's why I have a show. So yes, we are going to be exploring the topic of suicide. Needs to be spoken about, needs to be something people are comfortable sharing and exploring with each other so that we can prevent it.
Imagine if it was. Imagine if it was something that people were comfortable talking about.
So that is our mission.
Yeah.
We're gonna make our drop in the bucket.
Enjoy.
Coach Drew.
Welcome to this edition of What Matters. I am your host, Erica Elita, and today, Coach Drew, also known as Andrew L. Blackwood, joins me today. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
And I will always say thank you because it is really always a pleasure. So, we started off with a little intro from one of your most recent videos on your channel. So this video, it popped up. I get my notifications because, of course, I'm subscribed.
Thank you.
And I watched this video. Initially, I watched it twice right off the bat because it was so impactful. So in that first 30 seconds, what were you talking about?
First 30 seconds is the reality, according to the World Health Organization, that one person every 40 seconds succeeds at attempting to take their lives. But for every person that succeeds, there were 20 other people who didn't, which means 21 people every 40 seconds tries to take their lives.
Wow. Every 40 seconds.
Every 40 seconds.
So that means since we've started the show, we've had about, oh my goodness.
42?
Yeah. 42. There is another stat from the World Health Organization saying that more people die from suicide every year than murder and war combined. So it is a leading cause of death in our world.
Yes.
And this is why we really need to delve into the causes. Why does this happen? Why do people feel this way? And what can we do to prevent it for ourselves or for our loved ones? So let us start at the beginning. The reasons. The reasons. Why do some people feel compelled to end their lives? Before you answer, please keep in mind that it's not just in humans. Every living thing has an innate imperative to live. It just fights to live, whatever, be it a plant to an animal to a human. It is just our, it's even deeper than innate. We just want to live. So just like when a child says to you, well, I'm going to hold my breath, your body will say, well, this is nonsense, shut you down, and start you breathing back
so we're
automatically.
probably the only species that has the capacity to choose to end their life. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like the word influence, right? We're probably the only species influenced to take their lives.
Yes.
And ultimately, suicide is a choice. However, I think when we acknowledge that, sometimes we take responsibility away from the larger community. We take responsibility away from the impact and the influence that other people can have and do have that either contributes to suicide or contributes to the person choosing to live.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And it is, and I agree with you there that it's influence.
Yes.
So it is a choice. However, I don't think that when people make this choice or attempt to make that choice, they feel that it is a choice.
Well, okay, yes, exactly. And that's the power of hopelessness. It kind of puts you in this room, if you would, where the walls are closing in, closing in, closing in. And before long, you don't see any other option. You don't. And I think the time with which it takes for the walls to close in on you, that's what's different for many people. And I think the stories that people miss and the journey that people miss is suicide rarely, if ever, happens because one day somebody got up and they're like, hey, I think I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
It's a story and it's a journey of suffering that people don't know about or don't care about or don't show that they care about.
All the other factors that we'll talk about, it all kind of ends in hopelessness.
Yes.
Whatever the reasons are, all the different reasons,
Right.
it all comes together and it ends in hopelessness.
Right.
But like you said, the walls closing in come at a different speed. So it could be something that someone's loved one died yesterday and today they feel suicidal. Now that was a quick closing of the walls, but that's their speed. Or it could be someone who's been suffering for years,
Right.
over years, and that level of pain, and it could be physical, from having a chronic illness or pain, to mental and emotional suffering.
And you talked about the causes. There are so many causes, so many factors that play a role in that story, in the development of people getting to that point of crisis. And what's interesting is, for somebody who's older, when they look down the road, what do they see? Right? Again, that communal culture versus the individual. They see themselves alone. They see themselves in pain. They see themselves unable to make change, right? And if there's poverty on top of that, I can't afford to get the health that I want or to maintain the health that I have. I can only see a decline for me and there's nobody that can change that. That's the mindset. I just see myself losing myself over time. And who
wants that?
Who wants that?
And your friends around you are dying. A lot of your family's already gone. The people you grow up with are going. And who wants that? And I think that same mindset will apply also to chronic terminal illness or chronic illness, where the diagnosis you've been given is you will get sicker and sicker.
Yes.
There is nothing that we can do. You're going to get more sick. You're going to be in more pain. After a while, there'll be less and less you can do. And people will look upon that and then decide, make their judgment. The desire to live is wired into us. It's built into us. So when someone makes a choice to take their life, it is not a light choice. It is not just they were lazy or didn't want to deal or cut corners in life. The choice to take your life is a very I can't even find a big enough word for it.
I think it's a painful one out of desperation.
Desperation, yes.
I think it's a desperate choice. I think you've gone beyond the cry for help.
Yes,
This is not a cry for help.
No.
This is, I've cried for help and nobody's
listened. Or nobody's heard me, exactly. And sometimes that looks different, right? Every suicide case looks different, or attempted suicide, and it could look different for the same person if they try more than once. So a lot of us, we have this vision in our head. You've got the person who went to the hardware store and bought the rope or got the pills and wrote the note and planned it all out. And you do have situations like that. And then you have situations where it's much more vague. That feeling of hopelessness has left you hopeless. And you just don't want to be here anymore. So you don't have a specific plan. You don't have a way or time you're going to do it. But if death were to come, that would be okay.
Yeah, it'd be all right with that.
You'd be all right with that. And I can share my own experience, my own story of this. And prior to this year, I would have told anyone, I'm very happy to say I've never been suicidal. Maybe homicidal, but not suicidal. And this year, after suffering tragic loss, my youngest son's dad died, there were moments of I just didn't want to do it anymore. And it's not, and I would tell that to my doctor. I'd say, it's not that I want to kill myself. I have no desire to kill myself. I mean, it would be horrible for my family and my children. And that is what let me know I was in trouble. Because I was thinking it would be bad for them. I didn't think it was all that bad. It would be the end of the world, but I wasn't liking the world as it was. So I had no plan. I wasn't going to do it. And so I said to her, I don't really think this is suicidal. She said, well, it's concerning. This is very concerning. So it looks very different for all of us. Hear Andrew's story of what it looked like for him.
And I remember sitting at the edge of my bed one day when nobody was home, just me. It was quiet. And that's when I felt the notion of ending my life come over me. And I describe it that way because it wasn't a clear thought. I didn't hear voices saying, kill yourself, or I didn't have a plan. But all I could see in that moment was nothing. I mean, I'm a Christian. I asked for help, and I didn't see it. I didn't see anything. All I could see were my fears and a dead end, basically. And that was my problem. I couldn't see. I was blind. I was blinded by whatever it was that I was experiencing. I lost sight of my purpose.
And there it is. To me, I think that's what it is right there, is losing sight of your purpose. But something you said after that that's not in the clip that we played was, and some people never have known their purpose.
Right.
So I think that makes it even harder. When you've lived your life and you still don't know your purpose, and then you hit this wall, you hit this dark place.
Right.
You had something to pull you back because you could be reminded of it.
Yes.
You know, whether it was your colleagues or your wife or your friends that say, you know, you're here to help people. Like, you have a mission, you have a job. And you knew that, you had discovered your purpose. But for someone who doesn't know why they're here and have never found that,
Right.
to come back. How do you come back,
Right.
Andrew?
And that's often the case for younger people, right? We often see it as, you know, it often happens amongst loss, grief, and bullying and those kinds of things, where youth find themselves at a very hopeless and purposeless place. But which youth do you know that knows their purpose?
Right.
Right? We don't have discussions about purpose. And that comes back to the whole spiritual conversation as well, because I think purpose is a very spiritual thing.
100%, yes.
But then you see the people who are older, who've lost loved ones, and they don't have a reason. I was working with an elderly gentleman, 60s, and he was thinking about ending his life. And it took, you know, sorting through and pulling back all this stuff to find reasons, to find people that he was impacting every day.
Right.
But when we talked earlier about causes of suicide, I think as I'm thinking about it now, it's the factors, right? Very rarely is it one thing.
Yes.
It's factors that contribute to someone getting to that point. Some of the factors, like we talked about, included poverty. It can include trauma, right? I was working with a young lady years ago. I mean, it's one thing to be sexually assaulted once, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, right, over a period of years, what does that do to someone, right? And you're not going to go around telling people that.
No.
And if you were, some people would probably say, well, what are you doing to bring that on to yourself?
Right? What are you emitting that's causing this?
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's a similar dynamic in general, where we as people sometimes lack compassion, and we lack empathy. And part of that is, because I've been doing some thinking about this over the past how many years, is even though we know that we're different people, and I say this many times in different contexts, we forget that we're different people.
Yes, and he's going to say it 7 million more times
Right?
if I have my way.
We are different people. And a perfect example would be this. Pain threshold. Think about it physically, right? Women give birth to babies.
Yes, we do.
Men don't have to do that.
Nope.
Right? The thought of that alone, right, makes any man shudder, right? We'll use that for example. And a less intense example is if, you know, you punch somebody who's been in the gym for years and you punch somebody else, the pain threshold, it's going to feel different.
Very different.
Our emotions
are
like
the
that.
same, exactly.
They're like that. I was working with this young man years ago when I was working just in children's mental health. And I mean, everything about this young man was intense. Everything was about intense. The way he spoke was intense. The way he sat, the way he entered a room, everything was intense.
Over the top.
His feelings were the same way. So where I would feel a situation, let's say I would feel sadness on a scale of 1 to 10, the intensity would be 2. For him, it was at 8.
Right.
So that concept doesn't ring true for people when they say, well, why is that so difficult for you to handle?
Yeah.
I've been through this, I've been through that. Why can't you just
deal with it?
That's not how it works.
No, and
We're
so that thing that I said before the break, we're going to tell you what not to do. And one of the things you need to not do is minimize.
Yeah.
Do not minimize other people's pain. I'll give you a quick example too. I've done it where I've seen, posts where women are saying, "Oh, my husband's out of town and I have to go to the grocery store by myself with my child." And I'm like, "Okay, so go to the grocery store." Like, what's the problem? Pick up the child and go to the store, and then you're good. What's the problem? And for them, this was like a very big deal.
Right.
But I realize I'm looking at it through my lens.
Right.
I'm looking at it through what I can handle and what I can do and what I'm capable of. So that compassion, understanding that it might make them anxious. It might, there could be, like you said, there's many factors that play into this.
Yeah.
So I don't know what her experience was there something that happened prior that makes her afraid to go to the store on her own. So we have to not use our measuring stick to decide if someone else's pain is valid. If someone has reached out to you to say, "You know what, I'm hurting and I don't feel good," don't decide if their pain is worthy. If you are a friend, if you are truly a loved one, go to them. As we discuss the spiritual aspects, if there's something that the person is telling you their experience that you don't believe or you don't agree with, instead of minimizing it or telling them to snap out of it, find them someone who can help them in that realm. The warning signs. Increased substance use, alcohol or drugs, feelings of helplessness or hopelessness, anxiety, agitation, uncontrolled anger, unable to sleep or sleeping all of the time, feelings of being trapped, withdrawal from friends and family, dramatic mood changes. And there you see the crisis number for Canada. Please take note. A quick Google search will give you a full list of numbers. There are people that are there to listen to you. If you do not feel that you can call a friend, please use these numbers. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Just a general darkness, right? Sometimes there is a prevailing sadness that doesn't change with time. And those people are much more at risk for suicidality. And again, we talked a little bit about the journey of someone getting to that point. The longer somebody is in that mood and in that mode, that way of being, is the more time that hopelessness has to seep in.
Right.
And a number of my friends and family members watched that video, and they were so shocked.
Oh, yes.
And they're like, "How come you didn't tell me? How come I didn't know?" And I love every one of you, and I appreciate all the concern. And it's interesting because my experience, as I mentioned in the video, I've helped people walk away from suicide and suicidal ideation for many years. So my experience, I would say, was a fraction of what other people have experienced. I went through a year and a half of suffering because I didn't so much need help not to end my life, because I describe it as a notion that came over me. It was a very spiritual experience because I know my thoughts. I know how to manage my thoughts, and this was something that was beyond me. It was something that was coming over me, which was very different. So I was activated. I'm like, okay,
something's
let's
wrong.
do something. I gotta get out of this. But what I actually needed help, which I was talking to my friends and family about, was this period of suffering for a year and a half. Like, I can't figure out what's wrong with me. Can somebody help me? Doctor, whatever the case is. So I think we don't want to overlook the spiritual side to things that many of us don't understand. It's hard to put our fingers on it. Like, you can't go to the doctor and say, "I'm having a spiritual problem." And sometimes in our spiritual communities, there's not a lot of trust, right? So we don't engage. But I found that it was a very, very spiritual experience. And coming back to that whole idea of purpose, I believe we're created with purpose. I believe we're created with intention and possibility. But yet we still have choice, and that choice is influenced over the course of our lives every single day. which is why I think we have so much power. We have so much power.
Yes.
You can be helping somebody by decreasing one of those factors and not even know it.
That's so true.
Right? You can call somebody and say, you know what? You matter to me. You know what? You are significant. And I do an exercise with people called deep appreciation. And it's when you look at somebody and you talk about what you appreciate about them, right? The trait that contributes to them being who they are. Because a lot of the times we feel insignificant and we feel hopeless. By telling somebody that they make a difference in your life, it can make a difference in their life.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
And what does it cost you to do that?
It costs nothing, and you know what? I have a name for it. Actually, I didn't describe it as that, but I call it the funeral day speeches. All the stuff you would go and stand up and say while I'm lying in the box, call me.
Right.
Message me.
Yeah.
Text me. I have a letter at home from a man I went to high school with, and he wrote me a letter telling me exactly that, what I meant to him. I found out 20 odd years later, but what I meant to him and what I represented to him. And I printed it out, and it's plasticized, and I have it literally on my wall. And I have pulled it out and showed it to friends, and sometimes I reread it because I had no idea how I impacted his life.
Right.
And it gives me a sense of value. And something else we spoke about, what not to do, how to help. Concrete help. If you're saying, well, what can I do to help? Tell them what it is you can do. Because when someone is in pain, when someone is suffering, when someone feels shut in, the walls are closing in, sometimes they're not even sure what they need. I can tell you that depressed people tend not to eat very well. They tend to have problems keeping up with basic housework, basic hygiene for themselves even, and keeping them company. Sometimes silence is the answer. Going and watching a movie. That is a great way to spend time with someone and not talk to them.
Right.
Is spending
just being with people.
Being them.
And I think we forget, not just the person who's considering suicide, but everybody else, we forget how significant we are to each other. I think as a society in general, we are so focused on the self, the individual, but also coping. Like most of us, if we're honest, we're just surviving.
Yep, we're getting through.
We're surviving, and the desire that I have, that I want to help people with, and I believe this show is helping people with, is moving from survival to coping, from coping to living, and from living to thriving.
Yes.
And that's what we want everybody to be able to do. And for me, it just brings back the importance. This is not it is a shameless plug for the book. It is a shameless plug for the book. The Art of a Genuine Apology is all about that. It is all about saying, you know what? I see that you're hurting and that you're wounded from something that I did.
You guys you really do have to get this book. It is mind expanding. The first time I had Drew on, and he's talking about the art of a genuine apology, and I've seen some other books that people I've known written, and they're relatively thin. He comes with a tome. It's like huge. Okay, the thing is really, really big. I'm like, oh, this is a book. And then during this first show, when I'm sitting with you, and you're explaining to me this art, and I'm like, okay, there's an art to this. And the order that I thought these things came in were not the case. But this art of genuine apology is about connection.
It is.
It's about truly connecting to the other person, not throwing out words, saying things, right? But connecting, understanding where the pain comes in, why it comes in, how you caused it, understanding that what you say is often not received as how you've said it,
right.
and bridging that gap. So that connection of people, that understanding, it is what changes everything. And that's something I thrive for. And as we go through this world and more of us get like this and look at our tablets and we're not looking up and people are walking into potholes and so
right.
forth, I'm trying to connect.
Right.
Because you realize how many people are out there and all they really need is this.
Yeah.
Literally. When they say telling somebody hi in the elevator can change their day, I'm sure we've all heard the story of the person that was going to kill themselves, and someone showed them kindness.
Yeah.
The simplest, smallest thing, and it changed the path of what they were about to do. The little boy that was walking home with all of his books out of the locker to kill himself, and the kid that was like, you know what, let me help you with your books, having no idea that that's why he emptied out his locker.
Wow.
And goes home with the kid to carry his books, and he says, well, why? His mother invites him in, and they become friends. And years later, when he's valedictorian, he tells the story of the day that Jimmy helped him carry his books home. And that's when Jimmy finds out that he was carrying all his books home to kill himself. And he just didn't want his mom to have to go to school to empty his locker after. So these acts of kindness are really acts of salvation for ourselves and for others. And I could cry right now because I know I've been there, where somebody's smile, a stranger's smile, has changed my whole morning around. You know, and being told way after the fact that I did that for somebody with something very, to me, that was just human, you know, and we need that. So what to do is to pay attention to the people around. Like, no, really, pay attention to them.
Right.
Right? Andrew's been kind of talking the same way for a bit. Or I noticed that his eyes aren't as shiny. Pay attention. The other thing would be, don't try to be their therapist. I mean, unless you're a therapist, you see, he could be my therapist because therapist. But if you're not, stand in support and then refer to professional help. Get professional help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's for yourself, what do you do, Andrew?
Pay attention to videos like this where we talk about the signs.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
A lot of people don't really know themselves well, unfortunately. So getting to know yourself, sometimes you require help to do that. Get to know yourself. And here's the interesting thing. When we think about getting to know yourselves, and I mentioned that topic, some people are probably thinking, you know, get to know what's wrong with you. But no, getting to know what's right with you is what purpose is all about. Getting to know who you are. In this next segment, we're really going to come and talk about some of the unique thought patterns, and that's a big factor that can contribute to someone's success as well as someone's demise. So I know we got to wrap up, but don't miss this next segment. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
All right, we'll be right back.
A genuine apology. It's a dialogue. It goes back and forth because my goal at the end of the day, if I'm ready to offer a genuine apology, is to understand how my actions impacted you. Welcome back. We are in our last segment for tonight's show. Time just speeds up when we get together. We start talking about some things. So I'll get into it real quick because I know there's some other things we want to talk about. So I'll come at it from this angle. When it comes to knowing ourselves, there are thought patterns that people aren't really aware of. So there's content of thoughts, right? Which, for example, my life sucks. Okay. That's,
so what you think.
That's the content, right? And you can unpack the content and look at it. So if you have an all or nothing thought pattern, for example, my life sucks, period.
Point
all of my life sucks. All of my life has sucked.
Right. And everything in my life.
Everything in my life has sucked. That's an all or nothing pattern. Now, sometimes people use that kind of reasoning and their emotions. They might feel like life sucks. And because they feel down, they think life is headed downward. And so that's another kind of emotional reasoning, is another thought pattern. But then, I'll skip a few because for sake of time, then we have the different flavors of thought. I call them flavors. One would be ruminating, which is like obsessive. Right? Over and 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 over. And that's a difficult flavor or thought pattern to escape. People don't try to do that to themselves.
No, I can't see anyone wanting to feel that.
No, they don't. And it's a double-sided coin because, you know, the people who are keenly and super focused, they can do that probably because they exhibit some of those thoughts, but it's channeled in a way that's healthy, it's adaptive. But for some people, like myself, I have this, I used to reflect in a way that was very destructive. I would think about, oh my God, did I really say that? Oh my goodness, I should have done this. And every time I would reflect, it would be on the negative. but I've developed a way to reflect constructively. So I now know how to use that pattern or that flavor of thought to benefit
yourself. And this is why you need help sometimes in discovering yourself.
Exactly.
That discovery of yourself often requires help. And you guys definitely should check out the show that aired right before this, Here to Help with Simone and Dave. And they did a whole show about knowing yourself, learning yourself. There's even exercises at the end of the show, which I'm going back to do. But yes, that that idea of knowing yourself and recognizing your thoughts. And like you said, a lot of people look at finding out their negative traits, like fixing. You know, they want to fix themselves, but they don't think about the positive. Or like you said, with a potentially negative way of thinking, you can be trained, or you can train yourself to use it for the positive.
Right. Yeah, certainly. And another thought that I've in my years of working with people, intrusive thoughts.
Like pop-up thoughts?
Well, different than the automatic thoughts that just come up, and random thoughts, because I don't know, I have random thoughts. Sometimes, you know, I'm driving down the road.
Yes.
And when I was younger, I'd be like, I wonder what it'd be like to just turn the car off the road. I'm not suicidal.
Yes, but just like, I totally understand.
You watch cartoons, things happen, right?
Yeah.
So those are random thoughts.
Yes.
But then there's an intrusive thought, a thought that you don't want to have, and it interrupts every other thought. And it comes back. Not that you want this thought. It comes back. And a lot of people who end up ending their lives, that thought, they didn't want to have it. They didn't want to have that thought. But over time, over years and years and years, this thought keeps on coming. And we sometimes want to make sense of things. I must be thinking about this because
this means something.
I guess I must want that. Maybe I'm destined to die. Maybe I haven't, you know, and that comes, sometimes there's a spiritual atmosphere that comes with these things, where these are oppressive thoughts. And sometimes when you're hearing voices that aren't yours and those kinds of things, these are, like, who wants to walk around and talk about that stuff?
Nobody wants to walk around and talk. And even that, the hearing voices, trying to figure out, is this like a mental health issue? Like, am I like really like in the movies and I'm different people? Am I schizophrenic? Is this a spiritual invasion, right? And like I said, everyone has different beliefs. You might be like, okay, Erica, now what are you talking about? But there are people who, it's not that they've developed a mental illness, but they can tell you that their experience truly was demonic. It was a possession. Now, everyone has a different opinion about it, and that's what I was referring to before. If you go to a friend and they say, you know what, I think I'm possessed, please don't go, oh, come on, girl. Find someone.
It's a natural reaction, right?
But it is our nature, and only through years of me seeking this knowledge and actually practicing it am I not doing a lot of my automatic, very Caribbean, knee-jerk, judgmental blanket. Well, it's a lot easier than that. So again, not using our ruler, right? Getting the help and being supportive and providing concrete support. I'm here for you, girl. What does that mean? Are you bringing me soup? Will you wash the load of clothes? Can you pick my kid up from school? What? Offer that person something concrete, and you know what? That can also give them something to hold on to.
And sometimes you can also engage with people, because we like to do everything ourselves.
Yes, we do.
Right? That's a badge of honor. I did this. I
did it all.
Trust me, in my journal entry sometimes, it's 7 o'clock. I've already exercised.
I did this.
I've already done this.
I did that.
I've already done, and you know, there's a sense of pride and accomplishment. Yeah, right? But sometimes when we engage with other people and we say, could you help me with this? It not only opens ourselves up to be more vulnerable, to talk about what we need, but it also gives somebody a role to play in our lives.
Yes.
They might not be willing to do that for themselves, but they might be willing to do that
How often does that happen?
Right?
We need a show on that. Why is it that there are so many things we'll do for others and we don't do for ourselves?
So it's a double-sided coin. And we can get into it when we talk about it, but real quick, sometimes it's a matter of self-worth and self-value, but then there is also that innate relational aspect of being human. Like, we are not designed to be alone.
Humans need each
right?
other.
We do need each other. So you are tapping into somebody's purpose when you say, you know, can you help me? And sometimes people aren't equipped to help you in the way that you want. Like, not everybody's a therapist.
Right.
Every conversation can be therapeutic.
Yes.
But that doesn't make you a therapist.
No.
Right?
No.
So we pursue therapeutic conversations. Sometimes it's formal and sometimes it's informal. It's good to know the difference. But to the point that we're all relational and we need each other. And that's why it's important to have healthy relationships. Again, end of October, that's when I'm going to enlist your help to launch this course.
I can't wait.
A lot of people don't like to read. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people
I
don't
love
like
to read.
Some people like, and it's not judgment, right? Some people, it's going to be an audiobook soon too. Some people like that, but some people, they want help to walk through the book. And that's what we're going to be doing. The hope is to help people help themselves, but also help other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Each one teach one. If you figured out something that has helped you be a better person, share that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Share it.
And I think that's part of everyone's purpose. We're all connected. How are you making somebody else's life better? And people say, you know, there's this idea of altruistic. When you help somebody, it's supposed to be all about.
No, it's not.
I don't believe that's possible.
No,
right?
It's so rare, and I tell people say, "Oh, that's so nice of you," and I'm like, I'm getting more out of this for myself than I think that's
part of the design. We're designed to feel good when we do things for other people. There's nothing wrong with that.
I have realized when I was younger, you know, especially coming from the background that I do, you know, you really look down at servitude. You don't want to do anything that is involved with serving others because, you know, your grandmother was a servant and this one. And so you get, you know, you're born in Canada and the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to serve anybody. It even makes you take nursing off the table because you're like, that's like taking care of people. And then one day you grow up and you realize that one of the highest callings in life is servitude, is helping others. It is the ultimate purpose, is to do better for others, because here's the thing, like you were saying, it's double-sided, is that in order to help you, I have to be better. I have to make myself better to help you. How can I help you if I'm a mess? So I've got to, you know, help myself to help you. So it's everyone's getting better. So with this topic here, suicide, which is so important, and I always say to you, I'm not trying to tell you guys what to think. I'm trying to make you think about what you're thinking. And for those who say suicide is selfish, or it's an easy way out, or the person got lazy, please think about how wired we are to live. That our body has systems in it that will shut down our consciousness and will automatically revive us. We are built to live. So if someone doesn't want to, you have to take a deeper look or guide them to where they can take a deeper look. And if you are that person, please reach out. Selena, please put up the hotline numbers, the worldwide ones. I do hope that this show reaches you everywhere in the world, and this is why I'm putting this up. Every country that has a suicide hotline, and that is one of the things that is needed. And together, we can all change these numbers. We want to take it from 40 seconds that someone dies, someone's gone. 40 seconds. We want that number to change. So if you have feedback, if you have comments, if you want to share your story, I am here and I welcome them. You can send me a private message. If it's something you're willing to share publicly and you think it might help others, please comment on this video. Share this video out. Comment. Love it. Don't like it. Love it. And like you said, towards the end of October, we're going to have more announcements for you. Education on yourself. That's what we do.
Yeah, the education that leads to transformation. That is the hope. That is the desire. So thank you for changing so many people's lives. Your consistency, your faithfulness, you living out your purpose. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. And Drew, you, as I've told you a million times, and you know what I love is that we complement each other, and I don't think either of us ever get sick of it. So I thank you, and you've just been this blessing. The other day I was reflecting on like one of our first messages, and I told him I actually did like the happy girl dance when he said he'd be on the show on a regular basis. And this year I will commit myself to convincing him to have his own show. We will work on that. So Selena, thank you for being patient. You are wonderful. That is our producer.
Thank you, Selena.
Thank you, the people who watch and share and like and encourage. We thank you. We hope this was helpful. Join us again. Join me again next Tuesday here on TCN Network. Andrew will be here, I believe, the last Tuesday of October?
That's right.
Yep, the last Tuesday of October you'll catch Drew, and we will have another wonderful self-reflective topic for you. Thank you. We want to have people think about coming to the other side. On the other side of this, there is joy, and there can be joy in your life.